Anthony Albanese, thank you for coming in.
Good to be with you, Lee.
Let's start with the economy. The Reserve Bank this afternoon has left interest rates on hold. A lot of indicators overseas and here in Australia show that there is a risk of recession in the not too distant future. The strategy of the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, seems to be a return to surplus no matter what. Does Labor think that Australia would be better to go into deficit to stimulate the economy if it means avoiding recession?
Well, what we think is that they should listen to the Reserve Bank. And what the Reserve Bank is saying is that they can't do all the heavy lifting. And at the moment, monetary policy, of course, has meant that interest rates are just 1%, 1/3 of what they were during the emergency levels of the global financial crisis. We've got consumer demand that is very flat. We've got economic growth downcast from 2.75% to 2.5%. We've got wage stagnation that's having an impact on the economy. All of the economic indicators are negative for this government. And Josh Frydenberg's strategy is, she'll be right, mate.
Well, if you point out that the Reserve Bank wants to shift from monetary policy to fiscal policy. One of the key things with fiscal policy is you increase government spending to stimulate the economy. That would mean potentially going into deficit.
We support the budget staying in surplus, but we believe that there are a range of measures the government could do. For example, it's no good announcing infrastructure investment, like places like Linkfield Road, announced during the election campaign. Construction begins in 2026. It's quite farcical. The government needs to bring forward some of that infrastructure investment so as to stimulate the economy, stimulate demand. At the moment, the government is complacent. They've got a political strategy, but they don't have an economic policy, and it's showing up in all of the key economic indicators.
On another matter, the corruption hearings into donations to the New South Wales Labor Party are continuing. The reaction of federal MPs, including yourself, has been shock and disbelief, as if the party's headquarters and its elected MPs are church and state. That's a bit hard for the average voter to believe, isn't it, that Labor MPs have no idea about the culture or operation of your party headquarters and the way it gets money?
Well, quite clearly people didn't know about it, quite frankly. Lee, if you knew about it, you would have been reporting on it on this very program.
But I'm not a key elected official of the Labor Party.
I didn't even know this function had occurred. I'd never met the particular official and didn't know he existed who was involved in this. And of course, Kayla Manane has paid a price. She's been suspended from her position. What we need to do is to make sure that the ICAC can undertake its work. There's clearly a need for structural reform in the New South Wales branch to make sure this can never happen again.
Shouldn't there be an audit, not just of the New South Wales branch, but of all branches? Because if it's going on here, how do we know it's not going on elsewhere?
Well, the Labor Party federally, of course, we, unlike the government, we declare all donations above $1,000, which is what we think the threshold should be. That's been resisted by the current coalition government. And of course, in New South Wales, no less than 10 Liberal Party MPs either had to resign from Parliament or go to the crossbench.
But we're talking about Labor.
Because they were caught up in that.
Why not be transparent and have an audit? Bring out independent.
We have processes. We have an audit process.
Well, it clearly hasn't worked.
We have an audit process of our federal funding as a national party. What we need to do is in New South Wales, there clearly needs to be a proper examination of how this occurred and a restructuring to make sure that it can't occur again.
Why just New South Wales, though?
But we need to, because it's in New South Wales that this has occurred.
But how do you know?
In terms of federally, because federally we have an absolutely strong audit process, and there's no suggestion that federally there are any of these issues in the national office.
Is the party culture to do whatever it takes to get as much money as possible through the doors?
Well, look, it's up to the New South Wales branch officials to comment, and they've been doing that, of course, before the ICAC, and that will continue to take place over coming weeks. We need to not preempt that, Lee. It's important. One of the issues is political interference in proper processes. There is a process, the ICAC, and what we shouldn't do is try and politically interfere with that while that process is ongoing.
If we can turn to the Biloela-based Tamil family facing deportation, Australia is a democracy under the rule of law. This family has failed every legal hurdle to prove its refugee status. If you believe in the rule of law, isn't it rightful that they be deported?
Well, what's right, Lee, is that we look at the national interest. And under the law, the minister has discretion when there are circumstances such as Peter Dutton himself quoted when he allowed au pairs into the country after representations were made to him. He spoke about the Australian interest and he used the term compassion. And that's what the ministerial discretion is there for cases like this, whereby we have two Australians, in terms of the kids, aged 4 and 2, who were born here. But we also have Nades, who worked at the local meatworks in Biloela. We have Priya, who volunteered at St Vincent de Paul. This family were integrated in with the community of Biloela. They have very strongly advocated for them to be able to stay here, and indeed they've invited me up there tomorrow. I'll be travelling to meet with community leaders in Biloela about this case to discuss with them firsthand their experience and why they want this family to be allowed to stay.
Peter Dutton and Scott Morrison have talked about making an exception and the difficulties with making an exception. Wouldn't this send a message, say, to asylum seekers who come here illegally by plane, if you come to the country and then have a child, you'll be able to get around the rules?
Not at all. Peter Dutton makes decisions based upon his ministerial discretion all the time. He made it when people who have his phone number are able to pick up and make representations. Here we have the Australian community of Biloela. They're in regional Queensland with a hard-working family. You know, Scott Morrison says if you have a go, you'll get a go. Well, this family are having a go here. They're making a contribution. The community want them to stay, and it would not undermine our borders whatsoever for the minister to intervene because of the particular circumstances which are there. You can have strong borders without losing your humanity, and that's what this is about.
Anthony Albanese, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.